It looks bloody dark.
I can't see you.
Right, hello everybody. My name is Charlie Turnbull. This is the Academy of Cheese. It's Tuesday, so it must be Tuesday night. It's cheese night. I sincerely hope there are actually people out there, because I don't know. So let me introduce myself. My name is Charlie Turnbull. I am a cheese specialist in the UK, one of the foremost cheese judges. I ran my own deli for 15 years, and I'm a director of the Academy of Cheese, which is one of the leading academic institutes that studies and teaches cheese globally. We are a relatively new body, but we are growing great guns, and we are helping spread the cheese love and the cheese knowledge. Right, can I introduce my partner in crime tonight? Hello, Tracy. Speak up, Tracy.
Hi, Charlie. You're looking good. We can see you. Slightly dark.
Yes, Tracy, I'm sorry about that. I was beautifully positioned in my spare bedroom, and the sun has come streaming through on this gorgeous evening, which means I've had to shut the curtains, which makes me feel a bit like Dracula, some sort of cheesy vampire. But, you know, that's us. So Tracy is one of our fellow directors of the Academy of Cheese. She's going to be taking your questions. So there is a little chat box, a little chat space in YouTube. I want to hear from you. We want to hear who's out there. Say you are, where you're from. Tracy will be logging on and checking you out. And for questions that you have, you want to hear them. You want to know some of the basics, some of the more complex, some of the obscure. I am your agony aunt of cheese. I obviously look like that. So without further ado, let me tell you a bit about the Academy. I'm seeing things come in. Tracy, are these people nice people? Oh, it's Charles.
Yeah, Charlie, it's Tuesday night, it's cheese night, and we have Charles Chu. Hi, Charles. Are you joining us from Paris or China?
Okay, we've got someone coming. Probably, I think the last time I heard from Charles, he was in Hong Kong. So this is truly a global event. It's truly a global event. The Academy of Cheese was set up to deliver training from the most basic right up to Master of Cheese. There are no Masters of Cheese in the world. It is a race. I am ahead. Talking to you, Paul. And we are going to achieve Master of Cheeses. And if you think that you're a lover of cheese and you want to join the race, come and join the Academy. Obviously, right now, we're not doing many courses with bums on seats and classrooms, but we have an awful lot of e-learning you can do with us, level 1 and level 2. We'd really like you to come in on that. And as of the 22nd of April, we're introducing webinar courses as well. So webinars, that's going to be me doing this, but to you personally, we're going to have a nice little kind of, it's not going to be house party, it's going to be that kind of thing. Lots of fun, lots of cheese eating, and it's going to be 3 Wednesdays in a row if you want to learn more about your cheese. But I'm guessing that a lot of you already do. Now, what's else on my list? Talking about...
Can I butt in, Charlie, and just sound check a few people we've got?
Who have we got?
Brazil.
Brazil?
Oxford. We've got Cape Town. We've got Staffordshire. We've got London.
It just goes to show that...
And Norway.
Got Norway? Hi, Norway. This is really exciting. It's not bad for a first outing. We're going to talk today about cheddar. Now, it's a pretty obscure cheese. I'm sure you've not heard of it. So we're going to really start at the deep end of cheese growth. And cheddar is one of those cheeses that has got around the world. It's the second most popular cheddar cheese in the world. Gouda pips it to the post. Don't know why. Those Dutch, they get everywhere. And in the UK alone, there is £1 billion worth of cheddar being sold every year. And the reason that we're going with cheddar is because we figure that you've probably got some in your fridge right now. So I'm going to like hum for 3 or 4 seconds. I want you to go and get your cheddar, bring it to the table in front of you, and join in the house party that is cheesiness. So I'm going to start humming. You go and get...
Charlie, I think we should get you some more light as well.
Are we getting darker in here? Okay. Okay.
Pull the curtain slightly.
Pull the curtain slightly. This is really professional.
That's my thing then. Living this home virtual.
Is that better? Oh, I feel so much better.
Fabulous.
You can see my beautiful features. Okay,
Yeah, no.
cheddar.
Thank you, guys. Sorry.
Brentford, Leicester. I'm loving this. Welcome. So, have you got your cheese? Now, I'm sure because we're all in lockdown, you won't be more than 2 meters from a glass of wine or something like that. So I'm going to tell you what I'm drinking tonight. I've gone white. I've gone from a Near Provence. This is the most complex wine in France. It has 17 or 18 grapes that blend into it. Why have I chosen that? It was in my fridge. Now, when we do wine and cheese tasting, there's a lot of manure, Malays use that phrase, talked about what does and doesn't work with that kind of the authority of the snob. We don't do that. If we like it, it works. So I'm just going to pour myself. This is my Keith Floyd moment. And then we're going to get onto some cheddars. I hope you've now got cheese in front of you. Have you done that? Oh, aroma of peaches. Right. Okay. Number one cheddar tonight. Bought from my local farm shop where I'm at the moment, Padstow Farm Shop. Shout out to you guys if you're on. Now, the most popular producer in the UK is Cathedral City. I don't know if you've heard of that brand. About 1 in 4 bits of cheese sold in cheddar sold in the UK is Cathedral City. This isn't Cathedral City. This is Davidstow, but it's made at the same creamery in North Cornwall, which is why my farm shop stocks it, because they stock only Cornish things. Now, as you can see, this is a chip off the old block. Let's get a bit closer to there. Oh, look at that. Look at that. That's what, 500 grams, something like that, pound of cheese. I don't know if you can see that. Oh, can you see that we've got little marks at the top, so pressure points, that kind of thing. And maybe on the top, a little bit of white. Can you see the white? Am I getting close enough there? Is that focusing?
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that later. But these are all indicators for us cheese lovers of what's going on with this cheese. Now, I want to make really clear from the get-go, all cheese is good. There's a lot of kind of, how shall we say, oh, my cheese is better than yours, that kind of stuff. No, I'm not interested. If it's making you happy, it makes me happy. Now, in my world, I have spent a couple of drunken nights stealing Baby Bells out of my kids' fridge. So I eat the lot. Right, number two cheese we've got today. Godminster. You might or might not know this chap. He's a farmer just south of Bruton in Somerset, so he comes from the land. All organic, very nice. They use something called milled or extruded cheese techniques, which means it has the convenient double aspect of being able to shape their cheese, which is why they get these hearts going, which is really, really tasty. Liking this. And my third cheddar today, a little bit of unboxing moment. This is from Mary Quick, just north of Exeter, Newton St. Sires. And this arrived with me this morning. So all you people who need to get an emergency cheddar delivery, I can now confirm that Quicks do really good next day delivery cheese. I like the box as well.
Mary is here in the chat.
Is Mary here in the chat? Okay, everybody in there, you can't see each other, but give Mary a wave. Like all cheesemakers right now, they are struggling and she needs all the cheese love you can give. So give Mary a big, big hug from me. And there it's come through, nice little bit of cheddar. Now, I've chosen these 3 cheddars because they are quite different in their make, okay? And so we're just gonna have a little bit of a chat about cheddar. Right, what do we know about it? Actually, its origins are a bit obscure. What everyone says about it is that in 1170, Henry II ordered 10 tons of the stuff, right? 10 tons of stuff. So there must have been a lot of producers back then. And for a long time, cheddar was one of our premium cheeses. But in English cheese history, there's been an ebb and flow. There was a time when Gloucester was the most popular cheese. There was a time when the Wiltshire cheese, a cheese we don't hear of now, it's not being made by anyone. There's a Wiltshire cheddar style that was the most popular. There was a time when Suffolk, who knew there was a Suffolk cheese? The Suffolk cheese was the most popular cheese in the UK. Red Leicester cheese was the most popular. So the popularity has ebbed and flowed, but slowly but surely, cheddar has begun to colonize most of the production and most of the popularity. It's a hard, long-keeping cheese with lots of opportunity to give real punch. So you've got the mild versions at the young end, which you can use for cooking or kid sandwiches, but you can right up to sort of the 15, 18, 24 month ones with strong acidity, high savory notes, and you're beginning to get real taste of the earth, of the agriculture, which is really fascinating. Right. Are you comfy? Have you got any questions? Tracy, have you got any questions so far, or am I talking too fast? No?
No,
Marvellous.
we're looking good. We've just had someone ask for the link to be posted up for quick delivery, so I've done that while you've been talking.
Good, good, good. Right. We're going to taste them. I want you to taste them, and I'm going to do it a bit slowly. I'm sure you're aware of this, but taste is transmitted through liquid to a great degree. Dry things don't taste very much. You need to chew them as you add your saliva. The flavors blossom, okay? Anybody, whoever it is that's calling in from Cape Town, Biltong, you know what I'm talking about. So here we have a hardish cheese, which means we're going to need to punch in some saliva to really unlock those flavors. The wine people, easy peasy, the flavors just straight away because it's liquid. But with cheddars, cheeses, we're going to need to open it up a bit. Now, in your mouth, you actually only have 5 flavor receptors. You'll remember from your O levels, that shows my age, they're sweet, salt, savory, acid, and bitter. These ones are the early responders in your flavor profile. They're the ones who are going to be the fastest response, and they are genetically designed to give you a gut reaction. Eat this, don't eat this, so that you can make fast decisions when you are stuck in the jungle and being pursued by a tiger, and should you grab that hind leg off a deer and run with it, or it's not good for you. Bad metaphor, but I'm rolling with it. Okay, so acidity, bitterness, these tend to be negatives. Sweet, salt, savory tend to be positives. Sometimes we call them the forecourt flavors. Your local garage is full of sweet, salt, and savory snacks. So those things are going to dominate. And cheese, because it's such a visceral part of the human condition kind of product, will really big up on at least 3, often 5 of those products. And cheddar can deliver on all 5 of those. The other part of flavor is in the nose. Complex flavor. When Jelly Goulden starts talking, oh, great complexity. Don't know what I was doing with that and that, but great complexity. What she's talking about is when those flavors come out of the cheese, the volatiles, get into the nose, and there are 10,000 flavors in your nose. 10,000. That's a very big number compared to the 5 in your mouth. So when we talk about flavor, we want to talk about that mix of flavor being the simple flavors and the complex flavors. Okay, let's get on it. Grab yourself a piece of cheese, and we're going to taste some. We're going to taste some. You're going to smell it first? I'm getting a little bit. This is the Davidson. I'm getting a little bit of sweetness. I'm getting the salt that's coming through. Cheddar. I don't know if you remember those sort of John Bull cartoons. Sorry, my dog has come in. You want the wine? Sorry, wife has come in for the wine. I do apologize. It's a particularly nice bottle. Thank you. That's my apple juice. So where was that? So British cheeses tend to major on acidity, savory, and less on the sweetness, and they go big on salt. So all our most famous cheeses, from the Cheshires to the Caerphillies to the Stiltons, but particularly cheddar, has this strong savory agricultural character that is, those French people do completely differently. When they do their big cheeses and their Alpines and their the French Gruyères or the Swiss Gruyères or that kind of thing, they use a different balance, and this is more smooth, and some would say more elegance, but there's not that British impact, that sort of in your face, I am what I amness. Now, in old days, we did savory, salty cheddars. That's what we used to do. And we brought in the flavor, we brought in the sweetness with things like apple juice. And this is the classic, absolute 101 combination with cheddar. So if you have any apple juice and a little bit of cheddar, they go beautifully together. Here we're going to do. Not only, oh, it's so delicious. You get that fresh appleness that rides over the sweet salt savoriness, the salty savoriness of the cheddar, but it prolongs the cheddar and gives it more places to go in your mouth, which is just delicious. But the last 20, 30 years has seen the rise of sweetness inside cheeses, not just cheeses, the whole shebang. Sweetness is up, savory and acidity, bitterness is down, as a way of getting people to like your foods. So we have seen businesses like David Stowe, and if we get to the Godminster a bit later, they are using, they're reaching to the modern palate. They're trying to appeal to the modern palate. Now, if we open Mary Quick's, I think you'd argue that Mary Quick makes the summer cheeses of the cheddar palate. So if you look to the other sort of classic cheddar makers, which would be Montgomery's, Westcombe, Keynes, and now Pitchfork, that are coming out of North Somerset, down in Devon, we're getting what I think is the summer version of cheddar. Now, when you have Mary Quick's cheeses, your flavor profiles tend to come along the lines of Summer Meadows, butter, sunshine. I know sunshine isn't a flavor, but it kind of is. And those are the kind of things that are really bringing on. So I'm going to have a little bit of Mary. Mary, I love you. It's got a little bit more acidity in this.
Charlie, remember everybody's got their structured approach to tasting cheese sheets.
Oh, this is about what I'm referencing Academy Cheese Run. Okay, for those of you who download the structured approach to tasting cheese, now's the time to have a look at it. So ignore the first page for now. You can come and do my course and we'll talk about how to assess the rind, how to assess the texture, and how to assess the paste and all that kind of thing. Let's go straight to the flavors. Page 2, top of it, you'll see the simple flavors. These are the mouth flavors, and those 5 flavors that I have identified, you get to scale them out of 10, 1, 0 to 10. 5 is in the middle. These flavors tend to be so dominant that these tend to be the big numbers when we come to building a picture of where the flavors are. So the sweet on my David Stowe, I would be giving about a 5, 5.5, but the sweet for the Quicks, about a 3, 3.5. Because this is the classic contrast between the 2 big cheddar families, block modern and trad cloth wrapped, right? I want to stress, really want to go, there's not right or wrong. It's not good or bad. These are just 2 experiences, 2 pleasures in Cheeseland. And if you want to go one way, then that's your choice. So when we go these traditional, less sweet, more savory, you tend to get in these block ones, in these cloth wrapped ones, more of this complexity. Not always, but tends to be. Why? Because they're wrapped in muslin. And when they're wrapped in muslin, they breathe. And when they sit on the shelf for 12 months, 14 months, 18 months, during coronavirus, 16, 20 months, and that interaction allows them to pick up the character of the cellar. And in the cellar of people like Mary Quick, you have hundreds of years of cheese handing down their identity from batch to batch. And it builds up in that cellar what we call a biome. It sounds techie, and it's just all about the organic living things, the molds, the yeasts, all the things that are going on in that cellar. And it grows. And that cellar sometimes is seen as just a place you put it, like a warehouse. But no, those cellars contribute flavor into the character of that cheesemaker's cheese, as almost as much as the milk and other parts of it itself. And then when you hear about things like, cave aged and all that kind of thing, what they're telling you is it matters where you put the cheese. It matters. Now, if you contrast that with the block where we were going to wrap it in plastic, they're using a completely different flavor injector. Now, we don't really want to sort of talk excessively about bacteria, but in the first part of cheese making, for all you cheese lovers out there will know, the first manual, the first bit that's added in is the starter, which is a yogurty kind of thing, lots of bacteria going down there, and it's manually selected. We have laboratories and lots of people who've taken these starters for over years and sort of progressed them and taught these bacteria to do the right thing inside the cheeses, and they deliver the flavor. Now, when you're bag wrapping, that's your flavor engine. Those are the things that are releasing the enzymes into the cheese to deliver the lipolysis and the proteolysis that make the amino acids and the free fatty acids and all the funky stuff that just goes berserk and bazonkers in your mouth and makes cheese so special. Whew, that was quite complex. I hope it's reached. We pick up a glass of wine and just pause there for a moment.
Yes, please. Charlie, we've got a question in from Alice, which is not as complicated as what you've just been talking about. But Alice,
Hello, Alice.
has been asking, how long is cheddar usually matured for?
Bloody good question, Alice. Thank you very much. So the more water you take out of milk, the more hard it becomes as a cheese, and the longer it takes to mature. So cheddars fall into what we call the hard make. I know it sounds like a silly word, but it's a technical term, and it means that it's roughly 36 to 39% water. That's what cheddar is. And for a cheese of that level of water, we're looking at 6 to 7 months before it becomes interesting. So it needs to be there minimum 6 to 7 months. The classic cheddar makers are selling their cheeses around the 12-month mark, right? Now, there's an instinctive reaction to go, oh, well, I'm sure I like my cheeses 24 months. Don't go there, right? Taste the profiles you like. Me, I'm a 12 to 14-month cheddar man. That's when I get that savouriness that I'm talking about it. And in British cheeses, you get those flavours of butter as well, which I really like because they make me feel down on the farmy and they're really rich, and I love that. Once you move past that, your flavor profiles begin to diverge, and different cheesemakers can get very different outcomes. So if you take Montgomery's, he tends, very good cheesemaker, possibly, probably one of the most iconic cheesemakers in the UK. He tends never to take his cheese past 15 to 18 months. You begin to get caramel notes and things begin to come up that aren't really cheddar. So the answer to your question is 12 months is classic. If you are bag wrapping it, you can keep going because the flavors begin to sort of coalesce, and so you get 24-month bag wrapped. You can go all the way with that. Right.
Hi, Charlie.
Yep.
I'm going to interrupt again. Sorry. We're getting a few requests.
Yeah.
Have you got able to pull the curtain back a bit further?
Is it getting dark again?
Yeah.
Oh, what happened there? No, don't do that. It makes a weird thing on the. Okay, we're good. Okay, we're just gonna have to do that. If you can turn the lights on, lovely, that'd be great. No, sorry about that, team. It makes it go a bit fuzzy.
Oh no, don't like that.
We don't like that.
What about your little lamp?
Okay, my little lamps.
No. Sorry about this, guys.
Okay, why don't we lift that up there? And lift that up there. How about that, team? Tracy?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a bit better.
Right. Okay. Where were we? Thanking Alice for her question about how long to keep it.
Perfect.
Cool.
Hello from Norfolk.
Hello from Norfolk. Hello, Norfolk.
Norfolk, right. And you've got California now as well.
California, that's so cool. Right.
Sorry. Back to cheddar.
Back to cheddar. So we have these two major families of cheddar, block cheddar, where they are delivering almost all their flavor profiles through the starter cultures, of which they are basically genius, and the cloth wrap cheddars. Now, they not only are using this maturation period when they're bringing in the biome of their cellar to really mature the cheese on, but they're also tend to be single farm cheesemakers, which means they've got the character of the herd. Now, the herd is something they will also have been developing over generations, and they will have their own favorite preferences of their Holsteins and their Friesians and all that kind of thing. And they will give that milk, and the milk will be taking it off the land, and that means terroir, that means soil, that means different seasons produce different flavors, and all that character is there for a good cheesemaker to make something of. And different cheesemakers will choose different responses to how they want to handle those issues. Not to mention, what the weather throws at you and all that kind of stuff. So it's two different, really is two different cheeses. You might ask me, how do you know? How do you spot? Well, the most obvious answer, I think, is that cloth wrap cheeses will have a round edge. Can you see that's kind of like a slice of cake? Now, Mary's cleaned this one up for us. Thank you, Mary, for cleaning it up. But before she cleaned up the outside, it would have a grey to brown mottled effect with small sprinklings of mold and yeast, which would not be mold and yeast as like blue or anything like that. It would be characterful, brown, hard rind, and would taste a little bit dusty, possibly of cheese mite, possibly of a bit bitter towards the edge. But that is the carapace that's contained the gorgeousness inside. So those are our two sort of major families, but there are others. Now let's take one we've got here. Let's say this is our Godmin Stone. Now this routinely wins things like Best in Show, extremely popular cheese, well known for having the purple sort of very posh looking wax on the outside. And I don't know if you can see that. So it's got a nice wax coating, blah, blah, blah. So this is an extruded or a milled cheese. Now, why do you extrude or mill? Well, people choose to do it for lots of different reasons, but the implications are several. The first one is it ends up being softer. So they put the cheese in a kind of thing and make it into sort of like a paste, which means it's got a much more buttery kind of texture, hard butter kind of. Can't resist that. They then pipe it out like through a piping bag and they put it into shapes. So all those little cheddars that you see, whether from Godminster or Snowdonia or everyone else, that usually sort of 200 grams, they're shaped and they use this extruded process. Now the extrusion not only breaks down the texture, it begins to push the flavor naturally into a sweet one as you're increasing a degree of oxidation. So it has this double impact. But all these people tend to use a little bit of sweetness because they're appealing to the modern palate. And if you want to grab youngsters, making it sweet is a good trick. So where was I talking about? So they use something called a Helveticus starter. Helveticus, as I'm sure you're aware from your classical education, was a Roman emperor who either discovered or something. I'm sure the Swiss already knew their country was there. But anyway, he gave the name to the Swiss from the Latin Helveticus, Switzerland. And the Swiss starter family, this important group of yogurt-like things, was the first ingredient in making cheese. This Swiss group had this powerful, really strong sweetness. And they use it in their Gruyères and their Appenzeller's and their Emmentaler. And on their techniques, it doesn't come out so sweet. It just comes out as a really balanced cheese. But you take their starters from over there in Switzerland and you pop it on an English countryside with our grass and our cows, and suddenly it becomes almost like you've caramelized it from the get-go. So that sweetness is a really powerful and enjoyable tool that some cheesemakers use. I hope you are interested by this. If you're not, it's fascinating, I think. Right, so we're going to taste this. So we talked earlier about our Davidstow ranking, I don't know, 5, 5.5 on our sweetness, and our Merry Quick 3, 3.5. This is about 7, right? It's right up there. Significant sweetness is now our major thing. Hardly getting any savouriness at all. It's there. Sweet savouriness is down maybe a 4, 5. There is noticeable saltiness, but we're getting a sort of if this is the cheese equivalent of salted caramel. That's what this is. It's delicious. Now, those are my.
You've got a great question from Paul. Can I butt in?
Yeah.
So Paul is asking, what type of resources would you, Charlie, recommend for the pairing of wine and cheese, be it books, websites, or our references? I mean, I can add to that the Cheese Library, the Academy of Cheese Library, as part of your online learning, has.
I'm just saying. This is Paul. I'm picking up a can of worms. I'm putting it on the table. And I'm opening it. That's what your question has done. Pairing is so hard to be reliable. I was chatting to some Grana Padano makers. And they were asking, well, what pairings were you with Grana Padano? For those who don't know, Grana Padano is like a sister cheese to Parmesan. It's the most popular PDO in the world, and it's a very good cheese. And they then gave me 3 different wines for 3 different ages of Grana Padano, right? We had a white, a rose, and a red. What is that about? It's really, really hard to get reliable matches. The bottom line is almost always stay in your terroir, stay in your region, okay? Let me just soapbox a minute on terroir, right? The terroir, for those people who've done wine, will know that it's all about the soil and the geography and the climate and what's grazing, and frankly, that's a whole lot of mansplaining, right? Terroir is so much more, because the other half of terroir is the domestic, what's going on in the kitchen. Because when you have a community that's lived in an area for 7, 10, 20 generations, they have spent their lives trying to make their food taste nice. Not in a kind of active way, but they will go, oh, this recipe works. That goes with that wine. And over the generations, they will be selecting crops to make a cuisine, right? So that wine, and this is ironic, but the French are so good. Their wines just love food. And that's so often ignored when thinking of terroir. Wines in France are completed by the local cuisine. So go to your question, how do you know what goes with what? Well, reach into the cuisine history, not the wine, not the beer, not the cheese. Look at the cuisines, and that will tell you where to find the right matches. So if we go to the West Country, we're in the business of this, Cheddar today. So it's really about what traditionally grows. So apples and pears, big down there. Cider, big down there. Beer, big down there. That's what you're going to see as the natural habitat of food matching. And that is your best guess. There is, if you come to the Academy of Cheese courses, we do talk about how you balance simple flavors and augment complex flavors. The simple flavors tend to be quite big and bombastic. So bringing balance, if there's something sweet, then bringing in something salty or savory is a good mix. But in the complex flavors, if you've got hints of mushroom, that's often lost. So often finding a match that brings up the mushroom, so you having mushroom and mushroom squared, will bring really nice food matching. And that's a rough technical rule of thumb. But if we had a sensologist here with me today, he would be going, oh yeah, Charlie, really? Yeah. And then let me tell you the real truth, because 10 sensologists in a room, 15 opinions. I hope that is an answer. Tracy, is that an answer?
That's a great answer. That's fabulous. Paul did have a second question.
Bring it on, Paul.
Which was, what are the wines that you've got on the table?
Yeah. So this is not a wine. Cornish Orchards, really nice. There are some really cracking apple juices. If there's an underplayed drink in the world, it is apple juice, in my opinion. And go as, I don't mean it's good quality. I mean, it's like, just get apple juice, not something that's done mass produced and then strained 1,000 ways and added sugar and all that kind of stuff. Just apples pressed, awesome stuff. I've got 2 wines on. I'm not going to open this one because I'm bizarrely not drinking that much, which is a Beaujolais. But I picked it out because I like Beaujolais with cheddar. There's a certain kind of unrefined fruitiness to Beaujolais, a kind of like hasn't quite pulled his pants on kind of way of delivering fruit in Beaujolais, and it's got a bit of spice, it's got a bit of punch. So I like that combination with cheddar. I think that works for me. On the side here, we've got something considerably more elegant. This is a palette, which apologies if I'm repeating myself. They have 17 to 19 different grapes blended to get into this wine. This is a PDO wine. We're not going to cover PDOs today. Please come on a course, or maybe we'll do it on a later session. But it's food and drink areas that have basically patented certain recipes to certain styles. And this is the most complex grape combination in France. Now, it's sort of the opposite of the Beaujolais. It's incredibly elegant, very nuanced. One of those recipes when you're sort of almost failing to pick out particular flavors and it's combined into a fascinating whole. I am getting elements of peach, which is why I rather liked it, because those summer fruits can often go well with cheddar. To be honest, it is slightly being overwhelmed with the cheddar, and I'm drinking it just because I like both of them, and sometimes that's all you do. Any questions, Tracy?
Yeah, so we've got a question from Mark. He's saying, loving the cheap talk, Charlie.
Thank you very much, Mark. You can come again.
What is the difference between cheddar and Wiltshire cheese?
It's a really interesting question because no one's made Wiltshire for a long time. So let's just think back about the history of cheese briefly. So in 1170, we are seeing Henry II with his 10 tons of cheese, right? That's the first big impact of cheddar. It hits the market. It grows in popularity, but it is not the dominant force it is now until the mid-1800s. And at which point it begins to push all the other cheeses out the way. For instance, Dunlop Ayrshire, which was the leading hard cheese of Scotland, began to see a decline between 1850 and 1900, and even more so in the 20th century, as Scottish cheddar began to take hold, and the recipe was produced by a lot of Scottish cheddar bakers. And I'm sure all of my Scottish people, are there any people from Scotland? Hello, Scotland. It's typical in Scotland to colour your cheddar, so you get that orange red Leicester colouring that goes into Scottish cheddar, which is just part of history. Now, on that journey, Wiltshire cheese had its moment in the sun, and it took over from Gloucester cheese, which was briefly the most popular. So we're talking about the 1780s, 1790s. Wiltshire cheese began to rise in popularity, but I don't know if you've been to Wiltshire. It's a relatively, particularly the southern part, which is where the cheese was sort of being made. It's a relatively fat county, and in today's world of monocultures and big farms, it's better suited to growing grain, seeds, that kind of thing. So there's just not as much dairy there as there used to be, and it fell down, and Wiltshire cheese fell out of fashion, and now no one makes it. So if you are looking for a second career, and God forbid, you know, everyone's thinking about that right now, maybe you should start making cheese in Wiltshire. Give us a call.
Sounds like a plan.
Mm-hmm. It's cheddar light. Did I mention that? It's a cheddar. It's a halfway between cheddar and Gloucester. That's what Wiltshire is. Sorry, the actual question I only got to at the end there. I hope that's sort of enlivened your knowledge of Wiltshire. It's never really seen as a cheese county, and yet it was. What's next on my list? Any more questions, or am I going back into the flow?
Well, you're 36 minutes through at the moment.
Okay.
So you're doing great. I've got a question from James James Kingston, and he's saying, I would like to do your course in person, however, that's not possible at the moment. Is there a way to get access to the online course and go in person when they open again without paying twice? Ooh, that's
interesting question.
You're going to be doing it in person online as a webinar.
The truth is, James, everyone's doing deals right now. We are doing a webinar. So we're going to do the course online starting on the 22nd. We're going to trial it 22nd, 29th, and whatever 7 days is after that. Wednesday evenings, hour and a half, and we'll have you get lots of meat. Great. I'm sure that's first on your Christmas list. And we will arrange for the cheeses to be sent to you, and we will do it together. We can do the online. You can do the online course, and I think you've just sort of inspired the idea. We could do one-off sessions to have a kind of wrap up, so that we could do a communal tasting for those people who want, you know, to taste cheeses together with other people to contextualize what they've learned online. I think that's a really good idea. What do you think, Tracy? You think we can do that?
Yeah, sure. We have to be. Everybody is having to be so creative at the moment, and improvised, as all our beautiful cheese makers and cheesemongers and cheese distributors are doing. So, sure, we'll make some plans.
Yeah. On that note, we're building up a list of good places you can get cheese, and we do not have a comprehensive list. So all the people out there, if you've got a really good cheesemonger who does online selling near you, or somebody you really recommend, please email the Academy of Cheese, and we will put them on our cheese list of places to get good cheese. We need to be supporting these people right now. So we need the help. They need the help. That'd be great. So it's a bit of a call to action. Where have we gone? So let's just talk about food and drink making just for a second. I know that I've covered it to a degree, but there are some things that I really sort of would like to say, and this slightly relates to Paul's question. It's subjective. It's up to you, okay? Don't be told what works. Don't be told what is right. If you go down to Cahors in north of Toulouse in France, they have Malbecs there, right? Really popular Malbec, not the kind of nice Malbecs that we get down from Argentina and Chile. These are big black wines, very, very powerful. We would struggle with an English palate on an English cuisine to drink them at all. They make sense in that cuisine, and those are the wines that they've grown up to find places for in their lives, and they really love those flavors. And you know, would you want to drink raki with everything in? Yet the Greeks will do that. So it's up to us. enjoy your drink, enjoy your food, and if you like it the way it is, that's the right answer. We can add to your knowledge. The Academy of Cheese can talk all the hind legs off several donkeys about the history of this stuff, but we're not in the business of telling you what to do because cheese is too much fun. So eat more of it, drink more of it, feel the cheese love. And that's sort of coming to the end of my first Tuesday Night Cheese Night. I'm going to stay on for sort of another sort of 10 minutes asking any questions Tracy's got. Is that right with you, Tracy?
Sure. We've got a couple of questions here then.
Yep.
So Peter would like to know what we're doing next week. Tuesday night is cheese night.
Tuesday Night Cheese Night is going on forever. It's going to be longer than the mousetrap. There's something in there actually. So next week we're doing soft mold ripened cheeses, Camembert styles. Is that right, Tracy? So bring something gooey. I'm going to be taking a Cornish Camembert. That's going to be on my plate. I'm going to see if I can find a couple. I'm hoping to see if we can get a bit of Baron Bygod down here, but by sort of magic email. I'm not sure if we're allowed to use the important postal system for something so purely for pleasure. But that's what I'm going to be tasting. So we're going to hopefully have Baron Bygod and a Cornish Camembert of some style. That's what I'm going to be tasting. So hopefully see you then. What else can I do for you, Tracy?
So we've got Sarah Peterson, who I know has been making cheese at home herself, and she's saying
good for you, Sarah. It's not easy, but it is a lot of fun. So if you want to try it, there's some good kits out there.
I'd like to say as well to everybody that we are going to have guest appearances when we get a bit more used to the technology.
Yes. Sorry, I was having a cheese moment. Yeah, we only invented this concept last Tuesday, so we think we've done quite well for a 7-day run-in. So we're going to get ourselves. So we're going to get some guest people. So I'm going to be able to lean over to my colleague, and that colleague will be down an internet wire somewhere. And we're going to get some guest cheesemakers. We're going to get some guest people. Celebrities love cheese. Are you that celebrity? And whatever we can, because Tuesday night is cheese night.
Fantastic.
All right. Well, I hope you've enjoyed it. And I have to say, I feel the cheese love. So I'm sending it back to you. Feel the cheese love. We'll be here next week. And I hope some of you join it and go tell your friends. All the best. Stay safe.
Tuesday night is cheese night. Woo!
Ooh.